In this video, I'm gonna talk about Supraland. This game was invented during a particularly free-flowing night at the Oktoberfest in which two perfectly tipsy Germans began openly wondering what it would be like to invent a game that is set into the combination of a backyard sandbox and a child's overactive imagination. Taking advantage of their Ballmer's peak, they immediately got their laptops out and began coding right there in the middle of the beer garden, for the Germans are a people of action. The result is an excellent poster child demonstration of the Unreal Engine, chiefly in the way that the controls are so floaty that it feels like you are ice skating on a permanent basis. If you have played Star Siege Tribes in the past, happy 40th birthday, and you will feel right into familiar territory with the way that pressing one movement key sends you zooming around like an air hockey puck covered in KY jelly. Right off the bat, we are introduced to this miniature world by way of an even more miniature you being carefully deposited in the starting area by the hand of 12-year-old God himself. Your objective is fairly innocuous, in that you must restore the waterworks underneath your hometown, but this of course is made complicated by all sorts of obstacles standing in the way. The storyline is about as thin as your girlfriend's erotic nightgown, and so little effort has been put into it that it is more like a set of unconnected story dots, with your major pieces of equipment being literally called MacGuffins. This would not be such a capital offense if the entire equipment list consisted of self-aware names of that sort, but the idea of having stomp shoes, force cube, wooden sword, and then red and blue and purple MacGuffin makes me twitch in ways that make me suspect I have been born with a mental disorder. Much of the gameplay consists of puzzle sections that demand a little more thinking than initially expected, but come with a greater sense of pride and accomplishment than EA games could ever hope to deliver. Solutions are not always obvious, and the path to the next area demands some looking around, but a welcome help is an occasional NPC who lets you know if you have all the equipment needed to proceed forward. The world is peppered with a handful of kid-friendly skeletons with giant heads, which can all be dispatched with ease by anyone with at least one functioning brain cell that keeps him from taking a shit on the floor. The coins they drop are used to purchase some of the many upgrades that can be found in the world, most of which are completely optional anyway. Curious for a game of the genre is that not absolutely every piece of equipment is required to finish the story, and some powerful or interesting items can be completely skipped without a problem. Some optional upgrades in fact exist only so as to open up the path to more optional upgrades. Your movement abilities soon become so vast that some of the early puzzles that you skipped become absolutely trivial, because you can literally jump over the gate that had been blocking your path. It sounds like a game-breaking bug at first glance, but the truth is that this is not an oversight, as proven by the secret rooms hidden in places that most would have considered to be outside of the world's reasonable bounds. There is a certain meta-quality in the world design, as if it looked at the Talos principle and then said, "Hold my beer. You are going to need an FAQ in order to find the last few chests in the world, even with plenty of in-game tools to help you find them." Music is largely non-existent and taken out from what I assume is the bastard love child between the soundtrack of a spaghetti western and Desperate Housewives. It remains quietly in the background for the most part, and that is a good thing because I do not want it any louder and I will instantly forget it the moment I exit. It is kind of hard to get into a game that seems to have been built to gatekeep itself, playing off its first couple of hours as some mediocre budget my first demo, before the realization sets in, and it turns out to have a previously unseen substance beyond the cartoony graphics and the sunshine cranked up to 11. The big question is whether a player can last that long before this dawns upon him. You are paying $25 for 25 hours of gameplay, so there is an excuse to the digging and searching that ensues. When you think about it, it is not that there are any glaring faults with the experience, despite trying to find some. There are some aspects that can be nitpicked on, but you dismiss them as just a quirk of personality or a detail that renders one unique among their peers. And as you mull these concerns over, your mind eventually spins them into a positive light, or at least a not negative one, and by the time you have gone full circle on the subject, you are so deep into it and you haven't tuned out yet, so forcibly that must be a good thing. In short, this game is the computer programmer you considered ghosting on the first date, but next thing you know, you married him, you're pregnant with your third child.